Is drinking raw milk safe like RFK Jr. suggests? Can you reduce a glucose spike if you eat your food in, quote unquote, the right order? I'm registered dietitian Abby Sharp. I host a nutrition myth-busting podcast called Bite Back with Abby Sharp. And those are just some of the questions I tackle with qualified experts on my show. There is so much food misinformation and disinformation out there, and it can feel impossible to know what's real and what's BS. On Bite Back, my goal is to help listeners create a pleasurable relationship with food, their body, and themselves, which in my opinion is the fundamental secret to good health. Listen to Bite Back wherever you get your podcasts.
Tick-tock, tick-tock. The clock winds down on Parliament and vacation looms for your MP. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's almost quitting time. Barring something unforeseen, this session of Parliament is just hours away from coming to an end, with MPs having sat for just 25 days. One of the last orders of business for the new Carney government is trying to get Bill C-5 across the finish line. That's a bill in two parts, one dealing with free trade in Canada, the other projects in the national interest. And it's the latter that's been getting the most attention and the most pushback. It is expected to pass today, though, despite immense criticism from the left-wing opposition parties, environmentalists, and some First Nations leaders. They've been warning the government there could be protests this summer, not unlike the Idle No More protests of a dozen years ago, because they say they haven't been properly consulted. But Prime Minister Carney says First Nations have nothing to fear.
At the heart of this legislation is Section 35 of our Constitution. At the heart is not just respect for, but full embrace of free, prior, and informed consent. It has to be seen as well in parallel with very major measures that this government is taking to not just support those partnerships, but also to finance equity ownership in these nation-building projects for Indigenous peoples, Indigenous groups, Indigenous right holders. That's the first point. The second is that this legislation is enabling legislation. It creates the possibility of these projects. Now, there's lots of suggestions of what the actual projects could be, but it creates the possibility, but a very clear process, which has at its heart consultation, full consultation with Indigenous peoples to define what is a nation-building project.
In the lead up to the passage of this bill, First Nations leaders have been in Ottawa attending protests, holding news conferences, and attending the one and only committee meeting that was held about the bill. Raymond Katikabat is a youth leader with the Chiefs of Ontario. He was in Ottawa this week with this warning.
You will see us up by the river of your special economic interest points. We'll be there to stop you. We'll be there with our teepees, and we'll be there with our family and our ogichita. And you'll see us in front of your front door as of today. You see our tired people outside. Our youth are outside. Our mothers, our elders, our leaders, we're outside, and we're not going anywhere. No matter what bill you pass, Indigenous will stay, First Nations will stay, and we'll be here. We'll be ready to respond. I'll be leading. I want to lead the youth, all of Ontario and Canada, in the movement called the Okinawak movement. I took the O from Ogichita, and the Kinawak is Ojibwe for the group of people, the people. So that means the Warriors People movement. And this will be youth-led. You will see us in your cities hubs.
In testimony to the Senate this week, the AFN National Chief, Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak, called Bill C-5 Trump-like legislation.
The way that they're rolling out this bill and doing it within 7 days, I think that's Trump-like. That's Trump. That's not the Canadian way. That's Trump would do things. And I think that we should be better than that. We should be respecting Canadians by hearing more diversity and more voices within committee. We should be also, hearing from First Nations. And, there's been no space. We've submitted a list with a whole bunch of speakers, and I don't know if they've gotten an invite. I haven't seen any indication that they have, and unfortunately I've had to lobby for a spot just to speak. So very disappointed that First Nations rights holders are being shut out of this process. We saw that at committees this week, like I said, that's a Trump way. That's not a Canadian way.
This bill is likely to pass, though, only because Conservative MPs will support it in enough numbers. Speaking of the Conservatives, they've spent this time in the House without party leader Pierre Poilievre. He is still on the outside looking in after losing his own riding on election night. But he's still active on social media, still posting YouTube videos. This one was posted in the last 24 hours or so, slamming Carney's intention to maintain the Trudeau government's sales mandate for electric vehicles.
Let's be honest, Canada is not a small, flat, warm country that is easy to get around. It's a vast, cold, resource-producing country where millions of us drive long distances to get to work, feed our families, and haul supplies, and yet the Liberal government wants to ban the technology that works the best, internal combustion engines, and force us all into driving electric vehicles, whether the grid is ready or not, whether the charging network exists or not, or whether we can afford it or not. The CAA found that EVs lose 40% of their battery life in cold weather, and that was tested in just -7 to -15 weather conditions, practically balmy compared to winters in Winnipeg, Thunder Bay, and much of rural Canada. This is not about reducing emissions. It's about imposing elite ideology on the common people.
The New Democrats are also down a leader after Jagmeet Singh's election night loss in Burnaby. Don Davies is the party's interim leader, in charge of 7 MPs who don't even really form an official party anymore. It was reported this week that Jagmeet Singh needs police protection because of foreign interference from India.
Well, it's upsetting. I mean, we live in Canada. It's a democracy. Nobody should be threatened for their political activities, and so it's alarming to see that happen. But now that we kind of can trace it to another country, should we really be throwing out the welcome mat to Mr. Modi when his government now is accused of, tailing, besetting, watching a point where one of our major political parties in this country has to get police protection?
And as for the Bloc Québécois, well, the leader there, Yves-François Blanchet, is still sour about an election loss in a Montreal area riding and angry that Elections Canada won't have another look.
Simply admit that wrong had been made and that if the Bloc Québécois asked for the election, or anybody asked for the election to be done all over again, they would support the idea, and then we might already be doing it. Because for now, and for some time still, the people of Terrebonne have been deprived from their right to choose who is representing them.
And that will soon be that. MPs will be back in their ridings, dealing with constituency issues, attending barbecues. Party leaders will soon be flipping pancakes at the Calgary Stampede. And they won't be back in the House of Commons until September 15th. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Back with our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership. Barry McLaughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa and at the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University. And you can read Barry on his Substack. How are you this week?
I'm doing great. We just did a 3-day course at Ottawa U, and probably some of the things we're going to talk about. Risk and crisis communications in an age of disinformation.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I was thinking this morning, Barry, I don't have the timing perhaps precise in my head, but I think it was sometime late last year. You went to a community event in your neighborhood, and the keynote speaker was Mark Carney.
Yep. 1 year
So
ago.
from that event to, well, now Mark Carney's the Prime Minister of Canada. And I would like your thoughts when you think then and now about his rise to power.
Yeah. Wow. First of all, he is impressive in person. I mean, that was clear in this overflow crowd that he had an easy way of communicating with them. He had very, clear. He doesn't use a lot of excess words. Doesn't try to be the power orator of the century. It's kind of a low-key, somewhat would be called button-down kind of approach, a mild self-deprecating humor that really warmed the crowd up, and made some very strong statements. One of them was when I was the one that asked him, do you think we need that carbon tax to meet all these climate change goals? He looked at me and said, absolutely not, which I told you that the next day. And,
right.
he followed through on that. He really, you can see he's somebody on the move. He wants to move quickly. I think he understands how to utilize power. He knows how to speak with powerful figures and to, still somehow stay in the driver's seat in a pretty rocky drive through uncertainty.
You teach about leadership, and I'm wondering what you see in him in terms of leadership qualities.
Well, I think he's somebody that is he knows what he wants to achieve. In other words, he has a clear set of goals. Secondly, he seems to value and trust people for their experience and for what they have to offer. He's not just giving positions, whether in cabinet or outside or whatever, to people like, well, he deserves it or she deserves it because she did this or that. No, he seems to be targeting and very specifically picking people within the public service and beyond to do the job that he expects them to do. Also, a leader has to make it very clear that he has a set of high expectations for himself, and he expects you to deliver. And that's also become very clear in his very short period so far as Prime Minister. You got to live up to the bar, the high bar he's setting. And if he doesn't, he kind of lets you know it.
For example, this was in the Toronto Star this week from Tonda McCharles of the Ottawa Bureau of the Toronto Star. He has brusquely demanded better performance of political aides and senior public servants, including deputy ministers. One was scolded for not having an immediate answer to a question Carney had and told to learn the file. Another was scolded for not having read in advance a document he handed to the Prime Minister without knowing its full content in import. He flatters Trump and Modi and tries to anticipate and meet their needs in the name of comedy. He gets along well with most of the premiers, but sees little need to do the same with his own caucus. One of his first caucus meetings after winning the Liberal leadership, Carney didn't stay long or stick around to take pre-election pictures with his MPs, said a Liberal MP speaking on the condition of anonymity. What do you think about that, the way he treats other people?
Well, he doesn't suffer fools gladly. I met him personally. He was governor of the Bank of Canada, and he brought us in to coach the deputy heads. And so I did see through a direct lens that he is somebody that does expect highly of others. I think he has to realize as Prime Minister, and he, of course, never had this political role before, that in the political world that, yes, a selfie with you and this MP in his or her riding is very meaningful to them. And it may not mean tremendously amount to you, but it means a lot to them. I think it's how to utilize power in a way that it's sort of soft power, but it's one that matters. If you scold somebody in front of a room full of other, civilians, let's say, that's very hurtful. It does hurt them. And I think that it'll only happen once. They will, I think, move quickly not to have that repeated. But I think he has to realize that being Prime Minister is its own unique powerful position, that you've got to be much gentler and a little more subtle, and you'll accomplish the same things. I think he's going to work his way into that, I sense. But, Pierre Trudeau, he reminded me, funny enough, of Pierre Trudeau, who really didn't like to play the game of politics, who didn't really want to take the time to do photographs and everything. He did his share of them, but you could tell this wasn't his scene. And, I think, interestingly enough, Mark Carney is absolutely not like Justin Trudeau in that, but he's much more like his father.
And you mentioned a few weeks ago, you did some work for John Deere, Barry.
Yeah, I sure did. I
Yeah,
coach
very
the
cool.
president, vice presidents, and all aspects of communications, and yes, crisis management.
I mean, an iconic brand. Everybody knows a John Deere tractor when they see one. Nothing runs like a deer is, such a famous line.
Yeah.
So John Deere felt as though there was misinformation circulating on social media about the company, and it posted at John Deere, myth: John Deere freezes U.S. manufacturing in major shutdown. Us. 100% false. And then it showed a map, 60 facilities in over 16 U.S. states. And it encouraged people to apply. And one of the replies was, well, show us the locations in other countries. And the reply was, we're a global company with operations and customers around the world. Here's the link. So you're not moving to Mexico, somebody said. We are not moving production to Mexico. We just announced a commitment to invest $20 billion in the United States over the next 10 years. We've had a presence in Mexico since 1950, by the way. We're a global company. Then someone said, what about the 395 people you laid off in 2025? John Deere, orders are down, sir. What do you think about the way John Deere has handled this?
I think it's absolutely right on. It's something that we have been advising a number of organizations, including a well-known bank, to don't just sit silently as you're under attack. People begin to believe it. They always say the 4 credible hit theory of belief formation. If people read that 4 times from some kind of a media outlet that they trust, it forms belief. And has it ever hard to get people to unbelieve what they now believe? So they're moving forward. It's called debunking falsehoods, and pre-bunking. And pre-bunking is where this is coming, it's going to come. You need to get out in front of it. You're going to be reading falsehoods, da-da-da-da. It's important to understand the actual facts, da-da-da-da. So you move quickly and you put it in there, and you're actually engaging people in social media. Imagine that. That was never really done very much before.
No.
Don't go silent, though. That's a lot of people give that advice. No, I think you have to engage it, and calling it a John Deere spokesperson is the right thing, and it really does work. Silence is not golden in a crisis.
Right. So being proactive is very important because your brand's reputation could be on the line, right?
Absolutely. And you have to be ready. I remember coaching the vice president in Washington, and Jesse Jackson had organized he announced he was going to have a whole boycott of all John Deere outlets and everything across America because they had stopped giving out more units of business that they would actually use to distribute. They said, no, we're cutting that down. We're doing our own. And so, you know what? I coached him on the conversation. And what is it you're offering, especially young African Americans, scholarships, training programs, give them a level playing field to compete for jobs, to build their skills. And Jesse called off the boycott. He was all set to announce it. So engaging, not going silent. And make sure you're being fair in your process. And I really admired them for that.
Yeah. I found that really interesting. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, Barry.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Barry McLaughlin is the TLC, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. And Tom Korski is the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter, and he's coming up next. Here on Now You Know, I'm Rob Snow, and this is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
He's been minding Ottawa's business. Tom Korski is back with us, the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. Great to hear from you again.
Well, thank you, Rob.
Well, let's talk about the state of the government's finances. Certainly a lot of spending has been announced. Tax cuts as well. No more consumer carbon tax. An income tax cut has been pledged. What is the parliamentary budget officer saying about the state of Canada's finances right now?
He said a couple of interesting things. He's put this year's deficit at 45 to 50 billion, which is right up there, not as high as last year's estimate of 62 billion. He also told the Senate National Finance Committee, Rob, it's a little hard to say for sure on account of Cabinet hasn't yet tabled its 2025 budget. Here we are more than halfway through the year. And they will not do so until as late as, they won't even set a date, until as late as a couple of weeks before Christmas, arguably. So $45 to $50 billion shortfall. He also said, the Prime Minister has famously said, I'm going to balance, so help me, I'm going to balance the operating budget. And the budget officer has confirmed what every school trustee and town councillor knows, that that's a meaningless phrase, and that it implies nothing in particular, and that it is possible for any public institution to balance, air quotes, balance its operating budget and still become insolvent. It's really just a phrase.
Yeah, he wants us to believe that there are actually going to be two budgets, and that there will be, as you say, an operational budget, and there will be a capital budget. But it doesn't sound as though the parliamentary budget officer is really buying this line of thinking, that there's really only one ledger in the end, I guess, is what he's saying, right?
Absolutely. And Carney knows better himself. I'm not being, this guy studied economics at Oxford.
Sure.
So when you say I'm not going to balance the overall budget, I'm just going to balance this little part of a budget, I'll tell you what the problem is. What's the fastest growing line item in the budget is debt interest payments, headed for $60 billion a year. If you're a responsible manager, you say, well, we have to cut somewhere or tax somewhere to cover that $60 billion. Carney's never talked about that. It's a word game.
Yeah. He certainly does not like to talk about whatever assets he holds and whatever conflicts of interest he may encounter. What is being done to manage potential conflicts of interest involving the Prime Minister?
Apparently, Rob, conflicts by the bushel. So a top deputy minister, deputy for the Privy Council office, that's the top of the federal bureaucracy, testifies in committee that they now have staff. They have more than one. There are several people. How did she put it? She said they're trying to manage all the conflicts involving Mr. Carney and Mrs. Carney. I could list them alphabetically. It's a long list of federal contractors from whom they received payment as late as January, when he ran for the Liberal leadership. It's a very, very long list. The man is a multimillionaire with many, many investments and stock options that are owed by federal contractors.
What is he obligated to disclose, and when does he have to disclose it?
He has to, within, I believe the limit is 120 days, but he's already met that deadline. Do one of two things. Either sell your stock and announce that to the ethics commissioner, who will make a note of it publicly for the benefit of taxpayers, or you can put it in air quotes, a blind trust. The problem the Prime Minister's had is every time he's been asked about this, he gets, forgive me, he gets kind of cagey or indignant. He once told a reporter, look at your motives. What do you mean conflict? Look at, this guy has a $10 billion stock option portfolio with Brookfield Asset Management, the largest landowner, commercial landowner in Toronto, and the owner of Westinghouse Electric in Canada, that has research funding from the government of Canada for instance, small nuclear modular reactors. There's not even evidence that technology will work. What do we think he will say if the Department of Natural Resources comes out tomorrow and says, great news, we're going to buy 100 Westinghouse small modular nuclear reactors to put in the northern hamlets in Nunavut? What's his cut on that? This is the problem.
Will we ever know what is in the blind trust? Paul Martin had a blind trust. Will we ever know what's actually in there, or is that just top secret, super secret stuff?
It is super secret. His predecessor, Trudeau, also had a blind trust. It was never disclosed what stock he owned.
Okay. Very interesting, Tom. Very interesting. Now, from the Prime Minister to the Housing Minister, Gregor Robertson, Mayor Moonbeam, some callers of mine from the Vancouver area. I guess that was his nickname. He was Mayor Moonbeam. But he famously said in the very earliest days, right after he was named the Minister of Housing, no, housing prices don't need to come down. And I'm sure he would love a mulligan on that one. Now it emerges that he holds millions of dollars in property on the West Coast. What's known about this?
Unlucky for him that real estate has to be registered with the Land Titles Office. That's the problem for Gregor. The housing minister was asked in the House of Commons many times, at least half a dozen times by my count. Very simple question: do you own investment property? And he wouldn't answer. And his response was, in fact, so unnerving that it inspired some researcher, Bob Beck, in the Breaker News in British Columbia to look up poll land titles records. And how does he own investment property to the sum of an assessed value of $11 million? He's got lakeside property, and he's got at Squamish, and he's got the condo, $2.4 million condo at English Bay, and he owns acreage with property in Tofino. This guy's pretty flush. And so the question then becomes, are you renting any of these, Minister Robertson? And if so, what is your rental policy? And have you, by any chance, contributed to the housing crisis by raising rents on your long-suffering tenants? No comment, Rob. No comment.
Sure. Okay. Many more things to discuss today.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back with Tom Korski, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter, with us every week here on Now You Know. So we've had the ArriveCan audit into GC Strategies, the two-person basement-running firm that was responsible for that fiasco. And then the Auditor General of Canada appeared before MPs at a committee and basically said things don't add up here. What is puzzling her?
This was in the Commons Public Accounts Committee. Forgive me, this was really something. This is the chief auditor, Auditor General Hogan. What did she say? She said, we keep finding these problems over and over and over. For instance, as you point out famously in the case of ArriveCan, the lead contractor who had his door kicked in by the RCMP with a search warrant that said alleged fraudulent billing, with the investigation ongoing and now banned by a Commons motion for life, by name, for irregularities. And Auditor Hogan said, we kind of puzzled about this. Well, why characterize it? Why don't I just say what she said? I quote her accurately. During our audits, we kept trying to figure out why we're seeing the behavior that we're seeing. And when we spoke to public servants, some at times were unaware of some of the requirements that existed in the procurement rules, end of quote. What could the reasons be, Rob? Do you have to be Hercule Poirot? What could the reasons be for irregularities that make people rich? What could it, I wonder,
what could it possibly
a low-pressure system?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder if you really did a thorough criminal investigation, what you would find. I mean, I hate to be that blunt about it. I mean, it smells like corruption.
Of course it is. These are corrupt practices. And Auditor Hogan, this has been a shortcoming. My 2 cents, Rob. Yeah. She's the one who will go and find the filing cabinet rifled and said, my work is stymied. All the papers have vanished. Come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, even this most recent audit was her second audit. During her first audit, she said she doesn't know where it ends with this company. Her best guess was, $60-something million, but she doesn't know if that was the end of it.
Yeah, find out.
Or not. Yeah. And one of the shortcomings is, as she pointed out during her news conference, she can't audit the company. She can only audit the government. Like, that's her mandate, right? So it will be up to other entities, like the Mounties, for example, to launch further investigations. Has anybody ever been fired over that? Like an app that was supposed to cost $80,000 cost $60 million, and
there were 2 public health managers who were suspended, and they went to federal court and they lost. That's how extraordinary this was. When does that happen in Ottawa?
Right. Okay. Now, you mentioned that firm it had been banned for 7 years, but now it's banned for life? Is that from bidding on any contracts? Is that right?
Well, the Commons passed a motion. The Liberals have opposed it, but it passed over cabinet objections, and it said lifetime ban for the company, lifetime ban for the 2 partners by name, and lifetime ban for anyone who does business with those two men. And is that legally binding? No, but pity any federal contracting officer who signs a piece of paper with their names on it from here on in. That's extraordinary. That's never happened before.
All right. Let's wrap up on the high life. How were taxpayers almost on the hook for a fancy party in Hollywood, Tom?
It was going to be something. This was an Oscar party at the Canadian consulate in Hollywood. It's going to cost $70,000. We see through access to information. This is my favorite part.
Right.
This is one night. This is one cocktail party. $70,000. They were going to hire a red carpet manager. So help me. This was the job description. Red carpet management includes placement of red carpet setup and on-site management of the red carpet. They do everything different in California.
On-site management of the red carpet. Don't you love that?
I'd love to be a red carpet manager.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's Bruno Gerussi. $70,000.
70,000.
Yeah, crazy. Tom Clark is back in the news. He is the our consul general in New York. I thought it would be over for him, but apparently they want to know more about the New York condo in Manhattan. What's going on?
They sure do. Tom was hoping it would be over too. When the election was called, this is a fascinating fact. When the elections are called, all business is dead, including all unfinished committee investigations. And there were members of the Commons Government Operations Committee who felt very strongly, none of them liberals, very strongly, they wanted to reopen the Clark investigation, and which, as you point out, he famously said he had no role whatsoever in the purchase of a $9 million quartzite floored, marble-clad penthouse apartment near Central Park in New York. And the MPs said, no, we're going to reopen this investigation so we can get a report and file it with the House of Commons where it will sit in the record for the next 1,000 years and compel Cabinet to explain in a housing crisis why we're spending money on marble-clad bathrooms for Tom Clark.
Well, I mean, it's the consul general, Tom. Where is he supposed to live? Long Island? And take the train in every day?
Carpet manager.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rob. You too.
Yeah. Tom Korski, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter, minding Ottawa's business. Aren't you glad someone is?
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Here alongside David Smith on a Friday. We made it, Dave. Good Friday?
Yes, we did.
Payday, best kind of Friday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah, see, David makes so much money, he doesn't even know when payday is.
Kind of forgot.
He's not like the rest of us.
I do have some bills that need to be paid, so it's not going to last long, whatever it is.
Yeah, that never ends. If you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a new mobile app that can help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. S-E-E-K-R. Has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. Music, news, sports, and you can download Seeker for iOS or Android. S-E-E-K-R. Seeker. And Now You Know with Rob Snow, also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. So if you live in Quebec, as I do, but I live about an hour north of the Peace Tower, downtown Ottawa, just on the Quebec side, in a little English enclave here. This is a really cool time of year because we get back-to-back kind of nationalist long weekends, Dave.
That's
in
right.
this part of the country.
Yes.
So Canada Day, the Canada Day long weekend is next weekend. The weekend before that is always Fête Nationale. Okay, the national celebration in the province of Quebec. It's like Quebec's version of Canada Day.
It's Quebec
Only
Day.
It's Quebec Day. Yeah, it's Quebec Day. So where I am is very touristy. A lot of cottagers and whatnot around here. So it'll be wild and crazy up here, I think, this weekend. Fireworks, Dave. The Quebecers love fireworks. It's going to be firework crazy. I remember when I first moved here, I was like, what's with the fireworks? They were like, it's just a weekend thing. It doesn't even have to be a celebration. Any weekend will do for fireworks in this part of the country. It was very, very stormy here, and now it's Calgary's turn for stormy weather.
Yeah,
Dave.
my thoughts are with the people in Calgary. I hope everything goes okay. It has the potential to be some pretty serious weather.
Yeah, so it's supposed to start sometime today, and I guess last for the next couple of days at least. I mean, they're talking maybe 90, maybe 100 millimeters of rain before it's all said and done. So
I hope there are no big outdoor events going on this weekend.
Well, the thing is, I'm a big CFL fan.
Yeah,
Dave, and Calgary is off to a great start. I have to say, the Stampeders off to a great start so far earlier in the CFL season. The Ottawa Red Blacks not so much, and they're without their number one quarterback. But that's a story for another day. The Red Blacks are in Calgary tomorrow afternoon. And I'm just wondering, what is the weather going to be like for that football game? Oh my gosh, wind and rain. They'll play through anything. They'll play football through just about anything except for lightning. If there's lightning, then they'll call everybody off the field. So, but that is going to be one soggy mess of a football game tomorrow, Ottawa, Calgary. And look, the Jays, what can you say? I mean, they're playing really well. They're just 3 games at a first in their division, and they begin a series against the White Sox. And now that hockey is all over and all done with, maybe time to start tuning into the Jays again. And of course, you can catch all the Jays games on Sportsnet. Talkback is coming up. Friday free-for-all Talkback. We've talked about a lot of heavy-duty topics this week, but we're done with that. We have some in the mix, but we'd really rather you take the lead and pick a topic, and we'll follow along. That's how we roll on a Friday during Talkback. 1-833-668-2577. Lines are available right now. We'll get to your calls right after the news. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
And welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today it's the Friday free-for-all, and that's our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics on Fridays. We've been doing that all week. So on Fridays, we just leave that up to you. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, certainly no shortage of news to choose from. If you want to talk about something you think should be in the news, feel free to raise it here. We'll be more than happy to follow your lead. It's by the way, your last chance to have at us for a while. We're taking some time off. Parliament's calling it quits today, and we've been running pretty much full tilt since before the election, so we're going to take a little breather. And then after today, we won't be back until after Canada Day, the day after Canada Day, July 2nd. So all of our lines are open right now. Our call-in line, 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that, and we will make your call a priority. We do have some conversation starters, but we would certainly love to hear from you. Let's go to Dave in Halifax today. Hi, Dave.
Hello, you got me?
I got you loud and clear, Dave. Yep, go ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay, just want to talk about the bill C5, if I may.
Yes, by all means, sure.
Can you imagine? Now, I gather that's going to be put through before the break. Have you heard anything on that? Have they slid it through?
I haven't had an update from the House just yet. The House is supposed to call it quits about an hour and a half from now, so it's expected to pass, though. Yeah, the Conservatives will help it pass.
Can you? Yeah, and that was our Prime Minister Carney, right? That wanted to push that through. And
sure thing.
I'm a Conservative, at least now. For now, Liberals did not get my vote, and I have been with the NDP. I voted NPT. Anyways, throughout my life. But to me, this is a little sleazy the way this is going through.
Okay,
I
why?
kind of agree with it to a certain sense, But
Okay.
let's put the shoe on the other foot. And even though the Conservatives are going to help push this thing through, it's not the Conservatives that came up with this idea, right? They'll support it, but can you imagine, hypothetically, Rob, if the Conservatives were in, the hoopla that would be caused from this because of, it's almost like authoritarian, if you will. I mean, some people will think of it that way because
Okay.
it's not really done very well. They're pushing it through before they take the break. In my opinion, it's a little sleazy. Your opinion, if it was the Conservatives, and now they are supporting it, but this is not their agenda. This is
I think if it was the Conservatives, the protests would already be happening.
Thank you. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. But this quietly going to go along, and I don't completely disagree with it because I think, in my opinion, thinking conservative wise, we have to get things done, right?
Yes.
So I don't
Yes.
totally disagree with it. I just don't agree the way it's done. Now, one more thing, if I may add.
Sure. Yeah.
Where are we getting this money to put into our forces, armed forces? And I totally agree with it. They're getting I believe, a 20% raise. I like
Yes.
that idea. But
Yes.
the billions that he's going to put into our commitment to NATO, and which is going to be billions, I would think. And
Yes.
where are we going? It's just, to me, it's mind-boggling. And then another $4 billion to Ukraine. And where is this? Where is this money?
Where is the money coming from? Yeah, it's a very good question, and we don't know. And the parliamentary budget officer, all he can do is kind of guess right now. He's kind of like the watchdog for the numbers for Parliament. And I guess
think,
we're gonna have to wait till the fall. You're gonna have to wait till the fall when the House is back. There'll be a budget, and we'll see all the numbers then.
And yet they can push this C5 through without a budget, right? So. And
Oh,
sending
sure,
billions off and whatever. We're spending $1 billion a week to service $1 trillion deficit. So it's just mind-boggling. But that's our leadership right now, folks. And anyways, Rob, listen, I'll let you go. I won't hog the line too much.
Sure thing. Yeah. No, good to hear from you. Well, thank you so much, Dave. Thank you very much. To Tabor, Alberta, it's John is on the air. Hello, John.
Hello.
Hi, John. Sorry that my dog is barking at something in the background there. Hi, John. Go ahead.
I can't hear you too good.
Yeah. Hi, John. I can hear you loud and clear, sir. What's on your mind today?
Okay. What's on my mind today is yesterday you had a program. I listened to it all 2 hours about the dignity to die.
Yes, sir. And whether you should be able to give advance consent for MAID, medical assistance in dying.
Yes, but we're all created through God. So what gives me the authority? If he gave me life, what gives me the authority to take my life? Where do I get the authority from?
I suppose that would be the religious point of view, sir. And some people are saying, well, religion should have nothing to do about it. This is about government policy, and
religion has all of it to do.
Well, that is a personally held belief, and it is not as though the government is forcing you to have MAID.
I realize that, but they were comparing cats and dogs to human beings. A cat and a dog don't have a soul like man has. If a cat and a dog get put away, it's over and done with. Whereas man, he has to come up on the day of reckoning. So I think it's totally, 1,000% wrong.
Okay, it just MAID
That's
in
all
general.
I have to say.
No, John, just MAID in general, you believe is wrong, right?
Pardon?
MAID in general, you believe medical assistance in dying itself is wrong. Is that right?
1,000% wrong.
1,000%. Okay, fair enough, sir. A lot of people feel the way you do. A lot of us have had concerns that, the MAID regime in this country has gone too far. But I can tell you, and you listened to all 2 hours of that program yesterday, when it comes to having the ability for people to give advance consent so that they can leave this world on their own terms and not have to suffer what they feel is the indignity and and suffering of a long and painful illness, many people would take full advantage of that. And that's what we were probing yesterday on Talkback. We could pick up on that conversation again today if you would like, listeners, or we can go in any and all directions. It's up to you. It's the Friday free-for-all. Back to Calgary we go to Dave is up next. Hi, Dave.
Hi, I'm a first-time caller.
I appreciate that, Dave. What's on your mind?
Well, maybe it's the answer to the first caller's question, where the Liberals going to get the money from. And I wanted to talk about their proposal to tax home equity.
Well, I mean, there is really no proposal to tax home equity. They've studied it in the past, and every time they're asked about it, they deny they're going to do it. But the question is, well, why did you study it and spend $500,000 on it, I suppose?
Well, that's my question. And I read on the internet or on the news feeds that Carney's already brought it up in a cabinet meeting and in his new government once. So I guess my concern...
I think, do you have your radio on, Dave? Do you have your radio on?
Okay, my concern is
Thank you.
most citizens is that home equity is, like, I'm a senior, and that
Sure.
is the key component of my retirement plan is the equity off my home to live on, right?
Yes. Sir, I have examined this from top to bottom over the years because it's been out there going back probably 5 or 6 years with the Trudeau government. They've conducted 2 studies on this now, primarily with a think tank out of the University of British Columbia called Generation Squeeze, which is advocating for this, a tax on home equity. It says only on, I believe, homes in excess of $1 million. I can tell you this right now. If any government, whether it's a Liberal government or a Conservative, and a government of any stripe, proposes to put a tax on the home equity of Canadians in their personal residence, their primary residence, there will be protests in Ottawa, sir, that will put the Freedom Convoy to shame. And you mark my words. And I'm sure they've done polling on that, and they would know that as well.
Well, one might think, but you know what? It's a topic of conversation all around the country, and especially like in my areas with the seniors, especially. But you know what? There's just that old feeling of, oh well, what are we going to do? So that's what worries me, is the complacency of the average Canadian voter might just allow them to squeeze that through.
Oh, that would never squeeze through. That would never squeeze through.
Okay,
Canadians wouldn't stand for it. They look. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they would face tremendous blowback if they did do it, and it would spell the defeat of this government, the total collapse of this government. It would be the end of the Liberal government if they ever did that.
Well,
that would be my prediction.
I surely hope you're right, and I hope people listening will start to protest it to their MPs and that as much as they can, so that they get a bit of a message, so they don't even entertain it. But thank you for taking the call.
You're welcome. To Kitchener for the first time today, Jay is up next in Kitchener. Hello, Jay.
I just wanted to thank you for providing that MAID discussion yesterday.
Oh, thank you, Jay. Very kind of you.
Yeah, well, it's a topic that I'm very familiar with, and as a disabled Canadian, I can't take a stand, but I can sit down and pay attention to issues that concern me from a wheelchair perspective.
Sure thing. Yeah.
And I mean, like, especially when you're on low income, your voice should matter for something, and that's why, like with MAID and other medical issues, where quite often our hands are tied for different reasons, we should be able to make our end-of-life decisions to our specifications.
Yes. Well, one of the concerning things with MAID, and just as this regime has developed, people who advocate on behalf of persons with disabilities, for example, are saying we shouldn't really be expanding eligibility for MAID, making it easier for people to obtain a medically assisted death, because especially if death is not reasonably foreseeable, because one of the more worrying trends would be people seeking out MAID, not necessarily because they're facing some kind of terminal illness or grievous disability, but rather because they they feel they do not have a quality of life, that they are living in poverty or substandard housing. And why don't we make that a focus and make in investments into things like better stipends for the disabled, better housing for people on low incomes? This is one of the worrying trends when we talk about MAID, and it comes up a lot. Thank you, though, Jay, for your call. Thank you for listening. A loyal listener there and caller from Kitchener, Ontario on a Friday. It's a Friday free-for-all. Let's get right back to our phones. In Calgary, Elaine is up next. Hello, Elaine.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Elaine. What's on your mind?
Hello. I just wanted to respond to the gentleman that was talking about MAID
Sure thing. Yeah.
earlier. And so I struggled with that quite a bit because I am Catholic and was raised in a convent, actually. But that said, I think that we forget that we're actually not living a regular life. I mean, this gentleman, is he on cholesterol pill? Is he on, blood pressure pill? All of those are actually extending our life. So in my mind, when we're talking about MAID, it is allowed because you might have died before if you had not taken all that medication or did all that throughout your life, right?
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I
So
totally
really,
understand. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We extended our life, and if I didn't take that, maybe I would have been dead at,
Right.
I don't know, 72.
Who knows?
And now
If
I'm
you had
extending
just,
it on-
you're saying if you had just left it in God's hands,
Correct.
would you still be alive at this point in your life? Right? Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now that I use my, whatever the science in order to extend my life. Now I'm at like 80 and I'm suffering and I want to end my life. I mean, I would have maybe been dead before. So I'm not sure, I think that God is totally fine with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, just to remind people that this is all based on a conversation that we had yesterday, and we were asking, should people be able to pre-plan for MAID and make their wishes known, give advance consent for MAID? In other words, if I reach a state where I'm incapacitated and I can't communicate and I'm in intolerable suffering, but I can't consent at that moment in time, should I be able to give prior and informed consent? And most people, not all, but the vast majority yesterday said, yes, that should be allowed. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that.
You do?
Considering
Okay.
everything I said before. Yes.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you. Yeah, that was a very emotional show yesterday. Sandy is up next. Hi, Sandy. What's on your mind today?
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
It's kind of a strange subject, but I would like to ask your listeners not to run over the baby birds.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's baby bird season, and I am a bird lover. I'm an animal lover, and the baby birds, they look the same size as the adult birds, so you can't really tell. And but they don't have the mental capacity yet to know that they're in danger if they're on the road or the back alley or something, and so they don't fly away like an adult bird would, and people they'll run them over, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
I'll tell you, well, the issue where I live is turtles. It's I live in a rural area, a long dirt road, and the turtles are laying eggs on the dirt road. They've apparently been doing this for years, and you've got to be very careful that you don't run over the turtles and the turtle eggs. Yeah.
Oh no.
It's apparently
and,
a thing.
So thank you for letting me have my voice about that. And I do have a quick question. Is your show on Saturday night as well, or is it
It's a replay.
repeated?
It'll be a replay. Yeah, it's a replay.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't work Saturday night. No way.
No.
Okay. Thank you. We'll talk soon. Thank you, Sandy. Bye-bye.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday, free for all. Talk back. So we'll follow your lead. Pick a topic. We'll roll with it. Bernie in Mississauga. Where have you been, Bernie? I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you? Yeah, everything's fine, Bernie. What's up, you old socialist?
The only thing I'd like to bring up, it's too bad you couldn't have a program on what's going on in Gaza. The last 2 weeks, there are over 600 people that were trying to retrieve aid were gunned down by the Israeli forces. So I just think that the rest of the world, worried about assisted dying and about taxes and everything else, where's our leadership? Where's Carney? Where's Poilievre? Where are they on the world stage when these atrocities are being committed and they're not speaking out against it? And how in the hell can Israel get away with it? If this was any other country that did this, shooting unarmed people that are looking for aid, the world would be in an outrage over it. So that's all I just wanted to bring it to the forefront.
Well, fair enough, sir. Yeah. Okay. War is hell, Bernie, as I've mentioned. And you know what again, I come back to this, you know what the catalyst for all of that was, of course, and that was the atrocity of October 7th, which people on the left like you never want to bring up October 7th. With people like you, it's like October 7th never even happened, and that Israel is just in this war because it launched this war. And I would remind people that Israel wasn't even in Gaza, had left Gaza years before, and feels as though that it's in the fight of its life right now, and the fight for its very existence right now, surrounded by all kinds of enemies. And as I say, war is hell, sir. That would be my response to you, Bernie. Thank you for your call, though. Angela, up next in Calgary. Angela. Thank you for calling,
yes.
Angela. You're on the air. Hi there.
Yes. I'm totally off topic, a first-time caller, but I've got a pet peeve. I'm in Calgary.
Yeah.
And the QR codes in all the parking lots and everywhere, my phone does not have data. I don't have data on my phone. And so I can't park anywhere where there's QR codes. And I think that's a shame. I can't be the only one that doesn't want to pay for data.
Okay. So you can't pay cash?
No, the parking
You can't
lots,
use a debit card or a credit card or anything. You can only use your phone.
You need a QR code, take a picture, put in your license plate number, and I think that's wrong. Like
I think that's wrong too.
A city like Calgary has to have other ways to get your money.
Yeah.
Than with a QR code.
You would think in a city, in any big city, you would think they would want to come up with as many ways as possible to get the money out of you, especially for parking, because generally my experience in covering city councils is they don't like people parking anyway.
Right. And I was in a parking lot the other day. I couldn't park there because they said you would be fined. I went into the store and the sales clerk used her phone to put in my license plate number. But
my gosh.
I mean, really, yeah.
Are these municipally run parking lots? Is that what you're talking about, or privately run parking lots?
Certain malls, but also downtown. You know, the city parking lots. Like, I guess they don't want you to park there for free, which is fine.
Right. Well, that's fine.
Put a different way in than the QR codes, taking a picture.
Doesn't make much sense to me. You've raised it.
Yeah.
We'll see if anybody wants to pick up on it, Angela. Thank you for your call.
Okay,
1-833 668-2577 to have your say on the Friday free-for-all talkback. 3 lines available there. Pat in Okotoks up next. Hello, Pat.
Yes, how are you doing today?
Just fine, Pat. What's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is the CRA. I had my
All right.
income tax put in time, and for the first time in over 25 years, I'm getting a refund. They mailed me a check blaming everything on the post office, and that check has not got to me yet. It was written on April the 4th, and we are, the end of June, and they do nothing. You can't get the CRA to do anything. What would you do with that? I mean, I'm waiting for the money I paid. If I'd have been late putting my money in, they'd have fined me.
Oh, sure. And they'd be chasing you to the ends of the earth to get it from you, of course. But, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure you've tried to call them. Have you tried to call them?
I've called them every week. I finally have given it to John Barlow, our representative here in government.
Your member? Yeah. Okay. And
I just don't know how to do it. I mean, I'm living on $1,050 a month because of my CPP and that.
Right. So it's money that would, it's money you need and you're waiting for. And when did you say it was mailed?
April 4th.
April 4th.
It's what, 9, 10 weeks now, 11 weeks?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
They're blaming it on it. And then they said they were going to send me a paper to say I hadn't received it. That was 4 weeks ago, and I haven't got that either.
And you haven't gotten that either.
So I went to John Barlow, and I got him, and his
hopefully his people
for
can
me to fill out.
Yeah, well, you're probably in better hands with John Barlow than you are with me, sir. He'd be right there. And
it's a free-for-all. I love the government, don't I?
I can tell. I don't know if that's a liberal thing or if that's just a government thing, sir. That might just be a government thing. I mean, there are only 58,000 people working there.
They me my CPP, and they automatically did my CPP and my old age pension. They got all my information.
Yeah. And can you imagine this now? You have, I believe the last number is 58,000 people working for the Canada Revenue Agency, 58,000. And what is the number of people working for Canada Post these days? 65,000? Almost 120,000 people?
It's got to be somewhere.
It's got to be somewhere. All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, but we love the people of the Canada Revenue Agency. Every single one of you are doing bang-up job. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback Friday free-for-all. We've cleared the lines, so if you want to jump in on the conversation on this Friday, we'd love to hear from you. With anything at all. Been all over the place so far today.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it sure is. 3 lines available there for the Friday free-for-all talkback. The wait won't be too long. Fit you in this hour for sure. Kate is up next on the line. Hello, Kate. What's on your mind, Kate? Hi, Kate. Are you with me? Let's try. Yeah, I hear you now, Kate. Go ahead.
Perfect. So I'm calling from Alberta. We farm just outside of Calgary. And I want to preface what I'm about to say, that I understand that people work really hard for outdoor events and they put in a lot of time and effort and even money. But we are going on year 4 drought here, and this moisture that we're about to get, up to 50 millimeters, is so needed.
Okay.
You know, you can mourn your event that's happening, maybe your ball tournament or whatever is about to happen, and be very thankful for the rain. Nobody's made of sugar. Go outside, play in the rain, and everybody is going to benefit from this. So,
okay. Is it raining there now?
It's just about to, and we're going to get about 50 millimeters in the next 2 days.
Yeah.
They did reduce
Okay.
it, which is
Okay.
okay. We don't need 300 millimeters.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been following it all week, and it seemed as the week went on, they kept kind of cutting back on how much you were actually going to get. I mean, at first it sounded like it was going to be a monster couple of days, maybe 100 millimeters or so. And
Yeah,
I know you need rain in southern Alberta. That it's been brutal for a few years, as you say. But I'm wondering if it all comes at once like that, whether it's too much of a good thing.
So we have had spotted showers. So we've had that, start of moisture, which is good. Otherwise, it was just falling on dirt and dust. But I think the amounts that we're about to get is okay. We'll take it. We're not going to complain about how it's coming. At least some of it is coming.
And what are you farming there?
So we do mix. We have cattle and grain. So we have we need our pastures with our grass, and our crops need the moisture.
Right. Okay. And how has it been so far? The season.
Okay, we had a little bit of moisture to put the seeds in, but since
Yeah.
then we haven't had much of anything.
Right. Okay.
So we'll be thankful for this. Hopefully this,
All
and then
right.
a good shot in July, and then we should be looking good.
Good. Good to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great to hear from you,
Thank you
Kate.
so
That's
much.
such a great point.
Bye.
I'm so glad when people remind us of that and the impact of the weather on our farmers. Well, we all complain about having rain going into the weekend. Gene up next. Hello, Gene. You're on the air. What's on your mind, Gene?
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Gene. Go ahead.
Oh
What
my
do you?
God, this is my first time of calling you.
Well, thank you so much for doing so. What do you want to talk
Yeah.
about?
Okay, so I want you to I want to get your perspective. I've been listening to you for how many years, God knows, and I know where you stand in terms of the Middle East with Israel. And the last caller that called, I mentioned what's going on. Your response, though that's not the first time you've been saying that or something like that, is it seems that everybody forget about October 7th. So why I'm calling exactly is that I want you to actually try to enlighten us. I personally want to know where you are coming from as a person. How did you convince yourself that the October 7th was actually the major problem? Number one. Number two was that I know how smart you are. I know how informed, how educated you are. I know you know almost everything. I don't need to.
No, I don't know almost everything, sir. I don't know almost everything. Not
I
even
know, but
close.
you know what I mean when I said that. I know how informed you are, but it baffles me. It somehow I just don't can't wrap my head over it. How did you come up that you forget what has been happening before October 7th and you only focus on October 7th, number one? Number two was that the unprovoked attack to Iran last week. If other countries,
Well, I mean, you say it's an unprovoked attack, as though Iran has not been funding all of these proxy groups for decades against Israel, and that Iran, and that these groups have not been launching rocket after rocket. They've perpetrated how many terrorist attacks over the years, killed how many innocent Israelis over the years. For how many decades have they been saying death to Israel?
Okay, so now exactly your point is what I want to say is that if we are all serious about the peace in the world, I think we all need to start being sincere with ourselves. Let me give you an example of where I'm coming from. If what Israel is doing, what I'm saying is that I don't like a war. I don't like
war either, sir.
I don't want anything to happen to anybody in terms of dying, or even if you are a bad person, I don't want to see anybody to just get died. But my question to you is that when you push people, even anybody in the world, when you keep pushing them, some people will think rationally, some people will act roughly. So what is going on around the Middle East, it's not going to be making it safer than anything, because the fact remains that when you killing people, and you think that by doing so, because you have power, the fact remains that it's simply because the Israeli, they have the military power from the United States, which is the world leader. That was why they do all what they are doing. I am telling you this, and that's the fact.
Okay.
The fact remains that even if
that's your opinion, sir. That's your opinion.
Because if somebody said I'm going to kill you, and you don't think you can really
let me ask you this.
them,
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Let's say Israel tomorrow laid down all of its arms and dismantled its entire military. Okay? And so we're not even going to have an army anymore. We're not going to have an air force anymore. We're not going to have a navy anymore. The nuclear weapons that the world believes that we have, we're going to decommission those. And Israel will be completely demilitarized by Monday. How long do you think Israel would last?
Okay, sincerely, they won't last long.
Yeah, they wouldn't last long. They'd be gone by Tuesday, sir. And I have to go as well. Thank you, though. You've shared the other side, and we can debate it. And let's just not be disagreeable. Thank you for your call. To Waterloo, Ola on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hello, Ola.
Hello, Mrs. Snow. Good to talk to you
hi there.
again.
Yeah, Rob is fine, sir. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I have just 2 points to make, and I'll make them quickly. I want to use these 2 points to support the MAID, option program.
Advanced consent?
Yes, advanced consent and MAID generally.
Okay.
And I hope that it's able to enlighten the earlier caller, the man that called and said that God, doesn't, nobody should be given the choice. The 2 points, apologies, my voice is always cracky.
That's okay.
The 2 points I want to make is one is the power of choice, which God gave us, and then the second one is the power of reasoning, right? I hope those points will enlighten everyone listening. The power of choice is so important, right? And it's even the angels really don't have this power. The power of choice was what the Lucifer had that derailed him, and so the angels, so God kind of took it away from them. So man is so blessed to have this power. God is so benevolent, God is so good that He has given us this power. You can choose to do good, you can choose to do evil, but what the end of it is that at the end, when it is judgment, you will be judged based on your choice, not the power of not another person's choice. So it's left to you. So my point to support that then is, why would anyone want to take something that powerful that God has given us away from people that wants to choose me? I'm a Christian all my life, but I think if God has given us the choice, the power, why would anyone want to take it away? That is one. Sorry, I would really love to elaborate on this, but I got to catch a 2 o'clock meeting.
That's okay. You go into your 2 o'clock meeting because I have to get the 2 o'clock news on, sir, so we'll have to wrap it up there. Pretty deep stuff, though. That's hour number 1 of Talkback. You never know what's going to come up on a Friday free-for-all. Let's pick it up right after the news with hour number 2. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. It is our Friday free-for-all. So we're wide open on topics today. Open line, open topic. And just a reminder, we're going to be away for a while. I think 12 days or something like that. It'll be a nice break for us around here. We've been kind of going all out, mostly doing political talk with the election and all the aftermath of the election. So we need to kind of reboot and recharge. So we're going to be off until July 2nd is our tentative day back right now. So your kind of last chance to have at us for a while. We'd love to hear from you. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, Just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. A number of people have been first-time callers today, and we thank them for that. Let's go to Donna, up first in hour number 2 of Talkback. Hello, Donna.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Donna.
And we're going to miss you for a couple of weeks because I look forward to your show. I listen to it every day from 1 to 3. Because
well, thank you so
you can't
much.
get it after. You have to go whatever. Anyway, what I want to talk about, you probably aren't aware of this yet. I'm home a lot, so I guess I probably watch too much TV or whatever. But anyway, there was it showed something about planes were damaged at an air base in the UK.
Yes, I saw that.
That was a little one-liner on CTV. Then a little while later, there was another one-liner. Actually, I just saw it a minute ago again. Pro-Palestinian activists admitted to damaging the planes at the UK Air Force Base. That is disgusting. I know people are annoyed at what's going on and upset and blah, 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 but you shouldn't be going around destroying. I have no idea how much damage, but if you destroy military aircraft, it's probably millions. And how come that's not on the news? To me, that should be breaking news. And I'm quite sure all of the bases around the world, Canada, the United States, wherever, are probably now told to get more security on the bases. Because if it can happen in the UK, it can happen anywhere. And
yeah, I would just say
to the Jews because of this Israeli and the Gaza and the Iran and whatnot. But
yes,
I don't know. It's horrible what's going on out there. It's just mind-boggling how anyone could do these things. It's fine I'm upset about all kinds of things, but I would never go around and wish for death to anybody or destroy anybody's property. And
again, these were, if I could, ma'am, just jump in here. So these were planes in the UK at an air base in the UK, base. Right? Yeah, at an Air Force base. They were spray painted, right, with red spray paint. As far as I know, that's all they did to these planes. I mean, the bigger question is how do you infiltrate an air base in the United Kingdom? Yeah, I understand that. Yes, I understand that, but how do they even infiltrate an air base? Like that's the more disturbing thing.
Well, maybe they work there. Who knows?
Well, I don't know.
No, I know, but this is what was on honest to God, I'm not lying. This is what was on the CTV, and they wouldn't have put it there if it wasn't true.
Well, I know. I mean, I have the story right in front of me. Pro-Palestinian activists, they admit that they did it. Yeah.
Tom, Dick, and Harry can go right in. There's no security like there used to be.
Yeah.
At a lot of the bases. Yeah. But anyway, that was on that there's not. To me, that should be breaking news, and I'm quite sure the UK, once everybody else the other countries find out about it, they'll probably start putting security back on their gates. But
yeah, perhaps
that's what was there. It said they admitted to doing it. The pro-Palestinian
yes, I understand
activists.
That. Yes, you're right. You're
exactly
right. Nothing
what they said. Anyway, you can look it up. It was on CTV.
I have it right here in front of me, ma'am. I have the story from the Associated Press in front of me. London British police are searching for suspects after pro-Palestinian activists claim to have broken into a Royal Air Force base and damaged 2 planes with red paint, according to officials on Friday. The group called Palestinian Action said 2 members entered RAF Bryce Norton on Wednesday and used electric scooters to approach the Voyager jets, which are used for air-to-air refueling. The duo sprayed red paint into the plane's turbine engines with repurposed fire extinguishers, caused further damage with crowbars, according to the group. It released footage appearing to show an individual approaching a jet and spray paint into the engine. The activists left the base without being detained. So that is, that's the story. Okay, thank you for your call, Donna. Gwan, am I saying that right? Gwan in Alberta?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thanks for having me.
You're welcome. What's on your mind?
Sorry, I'm just going to increase my volume.
Okay, you do that.
I just want to share, since I live in the Middle East for 20 years.
Yeah.
1993 till 2014. And,
where?
During the time, definitely like half of my life staying there. And I never see even one time the Palestinians did a protest or put their flags into the Middle East, especially GCC. When we said GCC, it's the Gulf Communicating Country. These are Saudi, Kuwait, Arab Emirates, Oman, Bahrain, and Qatar. You know what? They are not allowed to do any protest. They cannot even say anything about what they're fighting for in that place. And they're brothers, you know, they speak the same language, they write the same, the food are the same, everything is the same. So my concern is, how come in the Western country, I mean, they're doing a massive protest, they close the roads, they destroy property, and they demand too many things. Again, while in the Middle East, in the Gulf, they cannot do all these things, you know, and I was just wondering why here, especially here in Canada, everywhere I saw there's a protest going on, and just a big question to me: why you guys are not doing that in the Middle East or in the Gulf? You know, I mean, that's my only concern.
Well, I think you've answered your own question, sir, because it wouldn't be tolerated, right?
Exactly,
now,
right?
Of course, here in this country, I would point out, here in this country, you have a constitutionally protected right under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to protest as loud as you want, peacefully. Peacefully protest is a guaranteed fundamental human right in our Charter of Rights. The question is whether, when it comes to these pro-Palestinian protests that are happening seemingly on a daily basis now all across the country, whether they're taking that too far, and whether these really are peaceful protests, and whether there are violations of the law that are happening, and that the police seem unwilling or incapable of enforcing the law.
That's right. You know what? I'm sorry to use this word, but if they do that, I saw many times they get slapped, beaten, both girls, boys, children, They don't tolerate it. Not a second, not a minute. You cannot even put your flags on the back of your car, on top of your car. They cannot. The moment the cops found it, you're going to get beaten straight away, right on the street, and we saw that many times.
I'm happy that doesn't happen here, but I think there's a growing sense of frustration with the extent and the lengths to which some of the pro-Palestinian protesters have gone to in this country, sir. That's my own opinion, my own sense of it. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. 1-833-668-2577.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So all our lines are available right now if you want to jumpstart a conversation here on the Friday Free-for-All Talk Back. More than happy to follow your lead. That's kind of how we do things during the Friday Free-for-All. But while we wait for some calls, David and I found this story quite interesting this morning. Talked quite a bit about it today. Love to know what you think about it. ChatGPT, the AI app, the artificial intelligence app. Do you use that, Dave? I use it quite frequently. I have it on my phone.
I don't use it because it scares me a little bit.
You don't even use it?
No, I don't. I've never really used it, no.
Never really used it. Okay. All right. I mean, the story is the theme of it is basically that these apps, and the big tech companies all have them. X has Grok, and Google has Gemini, and this is one of the more popular ones, ChatGPT, OpenAI. The theme of the story is it making us dumber? Is it making us dumber? And are you worried at all that young people, especially, are going to become so dependent on this technology that they're going to become unable to think for themselves? There is concern that young people are going to become dependent on this technology and they'll lose all ability to do any critical thinking. That they're just going to type stuff into ChatGPT, and whatever ChatGPT says, that's what they're going to go with. So there was a big news story about this week based on a study that was done by MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, as a media lab. So this is what they did, Dave. Fairly small study. Only 54 people. They followed them for a few months, 18 to 39 years old, all from the Boston area. And these 54 people, they separated them into 3 groups and asked them to write essays for SATs. And one group was asked to use ChatGPT. Another group was asked to use the Google search engine. And the other group was told, don't use anything at all. Just use your own brain. And then they studied the brain activities of these people, like they were hooked up to these brain monitoring devices, EEGs, they're called. And what they found was the group that used ChatGPT had the lowest brain engagement and consistently, quoting here, underperformed at neural, linguistic, and behavioral levels. ChatGPT users got lazier with each subsequent essay, often resorting to copy and paste by the end of the study. Group that used the Google search engine expressed high satisfaction and active brain function. And lo and behold, the group that used only their brain showed the highest neural connectivity, especially in the areas of the brain associated with creativity, memory load, semantic processing. The group was more engaged and curious and claimed ownership and expressed higher satisfaction with their essays. Listen to this, Dave. This is from one of the news stories that I read about this. The group that wrote the essays using ChatGPT all delivered extremely similar essays, lacked original thought, relied on the same expressions and ideas. 2 English teachers who assessed the essays called them largely soulless. Soulless. That's kind of discouraging, isn't it?
I find it troubling. It's troubling. It's disturbing even. I mean, when we hear about all of the chat AI, to me it's kind of like the internet writ large. Like, yes, it has all of this power to be and potential as a tremendous tool of knowledge and research, but only if the people utilizing it are equipped to understand its limitations and not just rely on it to replace their own human intelligence entirely.
I found it interesting that the people just using their own brains were a lot more eager to claim ownership over their own material.
Well, of course.
Right? It doesn't say this in the news report, but it kind of suggests, well, the people who are using ChatGPT, they know the work isn't really theirs to claim ownership over. It's the work of a large language model, what they call an LLM, large language model. But man, it's the next big thing in technology, so they say. Remember, they said that about the metaverse, and they said that about NFTs as well, David. But we'll see. ChatGPT. Is it going to create the dumbest generation? That's what I'm worried about. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Jeff in Cambridge on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Jeff.
How are you doing, Rob?
I'm good, Jeff. What's up?
Last week you had a topic, children on the social media. I guess young people.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah. I didn't hear anybody chip in regarding data mining, data farming. The harms that can come of that.
Okay.
Taking information and forwarding on to, whoever wants to advertise within, other computers that their parents might be using to influence buying and whatnot.
Yes.
And then also there's subliminal messaging now. I guess it's been there for a while.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I came across it. But then, as a computer getting information, it's like, as you said before, break AI. AI is what it's taking from, and if it's taking from garbage, it's going to give you garbage.
Right.
So that's kind of my, like, I've had a question and AI's come back 2 different answers for the same question. It just doesn't, it's not reliable. Going back to children on the social media, Hitler believed whoever controlled the minds of children controlled the future. So getting subliminal messaging into social media with the kids,
okay,
they can do a lot of damage. That's my.
I'm
take.
sure. I'm not really familiar with how widespread that is. Subliminal messaging. I mean, certainly people are being bombarded through algorithms. I mean, you visit one site and you look for one product. I mean, it's never ending. The advertising that you're going to get. I mean, you go shopping for a wheelbarrow, a Canadian Tire. The next thing you know, you log onto your computer and every single ad that you see, hey, do you want to buy this wheel? What do you think of this wheelbarrow? This is insane.
And you're an adult.
The data
and you're being influenced as an adult. Just think of a
Sure.
child's mind being influenced.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a very good point.
And then you've got predators out there. Like your child could be sitting playing a game supposedly with somebody in China, like a 10-year-old in China, but it's not. It could be somebody. It could be somebody, your neighbor next door.
Yeah,
Your
could be
doesn't know
anybody.
that.
Yeah. You have to be very careful. You have to be very cautious. Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, we'll stop here. Pick it up, and we'll be in the home stretch for this week and the Talkback Friday free-for-all. If you're on the line, just hang on the line. And we're in the home stretch of the Friday free-for-all Talkback. Andrew up next in Calgary. Hello, Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hey there, Rob. Happy Friday.
Yeah, same to you, Andrew. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Well, it's been a great week, lots of topics. I didn't get a chance to really listen to all of them, sadly. But I did want to touch base on the stand your ground law, or the proposal of considering this castle idea.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with a lot of your callers. This is a really important step forward, I think, at the very least, start establishing some reassurances or some faith in our governments and our police force. Too many people have stories where they just don't find justice in whatever is determined. You know, we've obviously got other callers suggesting that there's no, the victims are the victims twice, because then they get sued for damages. And really, I think, if we were to have stronger laws in place, because Canada seems to be developing a reputation for weak laws, and these types of stand your ground laws, it in of itself would probably be a nice big deterrent against, people considering, a life of crime or theft, because more and more people would be, inclined to stand up to them.
Yeah, it would take an amendment to the criminal code. A rather big change in the law. And I'm just not sure if this Liberal government is programmed that way to pass I can almost hear kind of the pushback from the Liberal side of the benches in the House now that you want more American style law enforcement, for example.
You're probably right there. This government probably isn't the one to do it, but I would hope one or two minds in there would start considering it, because I think the Canadian masses are losing faith. They're realizing there is no justice anymore, and that's what they're craving. They want to know someone's going to have their back because they follow the rules, and these other people that don't get away with it. Yeah. This I believe this was Wednesday's Talkback, and if you want to hear it, you can always go listen to the podcast, sir, and you can listen to it at your leisure, maybe this weekend sometime. It was prompted by a remark from the Ontario Premier Doug Ford, because there was this incident, I think it was in Brampton. This guy had a Lamborghini parked in the driveway, and some thieves came up, tried to steal it. The guy was equipped with firearms. He came out and he started shooting. Doug Ford claims he was shooting in the air, but nevertheless, it was the guy who tried to defend his Lamborghini from these car thieves ended up being charged with a whole bunch of
firearms offenses, 4 firearms-related offenses, careless storage of a firearm. He had a restricted or prohibited weapon that he wasn't supposed to have as well. That's one of the accusations anyway. And I think David should be able to find that clip of Doug Ford that we played on Wednesday. Let me know if you can find that, David. Doug Ford said, you should be able to stand your ground. We should have what are known as castle laws. Defend your castle. Your home is your castle. So you should be allowed to stand your ground. Do you have that, Dave?
Did you hear about the guy that these thugs came up, ready to steal his car? They're all in their masks and everything. So I guess he was a hunter or something. He shot up in the air. I don't recommend that, by the way. But he gets charged. I got to find out this guy's name and number, and I'm going to hold a fundraiser for lawyer fees for him. He should get a medal for standing up. It's like down in the U.S., we should have the castle law. Someone breaks into your house, and I know any of these people here, someone breaks into your house, and they're coming after your kids, and you're coming after your spouse, you're going to fight like you've never fought before. You're going to use anything that you have, be it weapons, baseball bats, knives. You're protecting your family. These thugs shouldn't be coming in there.
And I gather from our conversation you would agree with Premier Ford, sir, on that one?
For the most part, yes. He's probably getting a little excessive with the gun laws, but everything else, sounds pretty much in agreement. Yeah, it's definitely a direction I think we should move it towards.
All right. Thank you for the call, Andrew. Good to hear from you today. Again, it's not how it works. Right now, under our criminal code, any force that you use to defend yourself has to be reasonable and proportional. And certainly, if there's an investigation in any force that you use to defend yourself, and the Crown thinks that you were excessive, you would quite likely face charges of your own. We don't have this. It's called the Castle Doctrine, and we just don't have it here in Canada. William, up next on Talkback. Hi, William.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you just fine, William. What's on your mind?
I just want. You brought up AI and how
yeah
the people, especially the open AI with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in education, and we have a lot of professional development on how, because it's out there, right? They're going to use it, so we got to teach them how to use it. Like it's a tool like anything else, and right now the kids are using it like a hammer and a nail.
Okay.
And they need to be using it more like a paintbrush.
Okay.
For an analogy, like it's a great tool for when they come up with something that they've generated themselves, and then put it in ChatGPT to give it a once over, polish it. Like that's how it should. We're trying to get our students to use it.
Okay.
So it's like anything new, you got to teach them how to use it, right? It's a tool.
Okay.
But, so yeah, that's just my take.
But I'm just wondering, like, let's say, you were to give a classroom of students an assignment.
Yep.
Tell me the history of the St. Lawrence Seaway. Come back tomorrow and I want an essay on the development of the St. Lawrence Seaway and what was involved in that. I guess the concern right now in education circles would be you're going to get the same essay and it's by 30 students and it's all written by ChatGPT. Have you seen something like that happen?
Well, I don't think you'd give them quite an assignment like that with such a deadline and I want something so polished and finished.
Okay.
But, yeah, like you have the potential of having them all come back and spit out like something all the same, but it's like just.
I mean, what these MIT researchers are concluding is that the more people use this, the less cognitively aware they become, that they're slowly losing the ability to think critically. That's the concern.
They're using it, right?
Okay.
Like
well,
that's what's causing they're not doing any thinking. There's no higher thought processes. It's just they're throwing in give you an essay on the St. Louis Seaway, 200 words, double-spaced, and it spits out something for you.
Right.
Rather than doing the legwork and then using like OpenAI to polish it, for lack of a better
Okay, to
word.
polish it. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you. Yeah. Interesting point, William. Thank you. Good to hear from you today. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talk Back here on News Radio. Luann in Calgary. Hello,
Hi,
Luann.
Rob.
Hi.
Hi, Rob.
What's up?
Well, I have a leading question for you today, Rob.
Okay.
I'd like to know why light bulbs containing mercury aren't mandated to be recycled.
Okay. I don't know why. Why is that?
Well, we are here in Calgary, and we have a service to recycle light bulbs, any kind of light bulb these days, and it's not mandated. And I can't understand why light bulbs aren't considered, I use the word sexy, like tires, paint, electronics, because light bulbs do major harm to the environment, water, and our land.
Okay.
So I just don't, I don't know. Like we were just recently asked by the ECC in Ottawa to put numbers together about our recycling. The government wants to talk like they're doing something, but in reality, it's not promoted equally throughout Canada. And light bulbs do irreparable harm. They contain mercury, phosphor, and LED light bulbs that are supposed to be so efficient burn out rapidly. They burn cold, and they contain a major amount of plastics, and nobody's looking at that aspect of recycling.
Okay. Yeah, I've always heard, specifically with the light bulbs containing mercury, that was a major environmental concern, right?
Well, people say it is, but
right.
It doesn't take much mercury to contaminate an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
And Alberta has beautiful lakes.
Yes.
And wildlife.
So what do you think? What do you think should be happening with the light bulbs that's not being done? Why don't we just cut right to the chase here?
I really think that there should be a program put in place for residential people to be more motivated, and the government to issue a mandate to recycle them. There was a gentleman just recently a residential guy who came and said that he has nowhere to take it. He was from Australia, and he was very miffed because the two major hardware stores in the city stopped collecting bulbs, because once their bins or whatever have you get full, nobody comes and gets them anymore, and they just decided to stop promoting the program because they're just going in the garbage.
Right. So
they're
going to these light bulbs are going to landfills and whatnot, I guess.
Yeah, landfills.
Yeah. Okay.
And so after a period of time, like LED light bulbs contain plastic, lead, and other components that never break down. And so why aren't we concerned about landfills for all of those products when everything else is being, like tires, or we can have downstream process for the byproducts of light bulbs like we can for electronics and tires.
Right.
But it's just
like a special hazardous. Maybe you make it part of hazardous waste collection or something like that. Right.
Well, they don't consider light bulbs like an SUI, which is a single use item. But in fact, the amount of LED lights that are tossed because they burn out so quickly, you can't even imagine the numbers, Rob. So
all right,
it's making people aware, and if everybody wants to recycle totally, this should be considered because it's being left out. I don't know why it's not considered.
Okay, Luann.
In with those
Thank you.
5 entities.
You have raised it, and it's out there for consumption now. One final one here. Robert, up next. Robert.
Yep.
Hello, Robert.
I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert. What's on your mind?
I'm considering ground laws. And
Stand your ground
there's
laws,
an
okay.
aspect of that I think has not been well considered,
Okay.
and that's what happens down in the States. I work in a business where we're always in danger of being robbed, and in fact, I've been robbed twice, once with guns, once with knives.
Okay.
The reason nobody got hurt when this happened is because the robbers came in. They had no expectation whatsoever that we would be armed and fight back or shoot back. And yeah, between the two of them, maybe I lost $2,000-3,000, but nobody got hurt. Now, down in the States, everybody in my business is armed, has a gun, knows how to use it. And when robbers come into these shops, the general practice is robber walks in the door, pulls a gun, kills everybody in the store, and then robs it, because he believes they're going to pull their guns and use them.
Okay.
And if you get a little bit too aggressive with the stand your ground laws, you could put yourself into that situation.
All right.
Now, part
Good
of this
point.
is also, you look at the police here. When
Yeah.
a police officer does a traffic stop in Calgary, he really doesn't have a big concern that you have a gun unless he's been sent to stop somebody of a known criminal.
Yeah, fair enough.
Down in the States, when a cop does a traffic stop,
Oh, the working assumption is the
has
yeah,
every expectation
Of
they're going to
course,
have
yeah.
a gun.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that puts you in way more danger.
Okay, great points all around, Robert. Thank you for bringing that up. Have to stop here. Be right back. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I just want to close by saying it's a bittersweet day for me today here on Now You Know, because today I am saying goodbye to my trusted and invaluable colleague, David Smith. David and I first started working together about a half a dozen years ago. David was fresh out of journalism school, starting to learn the ropes of what it was like to work in the news business, and we hit it off pretty much right away, and we have been through a lot over the last 6 years. We've been through layoffs. In fact, I was laid off, and when I was hired by Rogers, I somehow managed to convince David to follow me here, and that was just the start of what has been a very wild ride and a great partnership. We have been through so much. The COVID pandemic, elections at every level of government, 3 federal elections, 2 provincial elections, a municipal election, Biden's election, Trump's comeback election. We've together covered floods and tornadoes and mass murders and enough politics to last a lifetime. We were on the air together all across the country the night the Freedom Convoy rolled into Ottawa. We broadcasted every day of that epic and surreal protest in the middle of that brutally cold Canadian winter, and we were on the air the day the cops came in and busted it up. Something I'll never forget. All told, we've been part of 4 different radio shows over the years at 2 different companies. We've survived format changes and even radio station shutdowns. And all through it, I have watched David grow into an incredible news broadcaster, a very talented broadcaster with a very bright future. And that's why when David told me a couple of weeks ago that he had been offered a new and exciting opportunity, I wasn't surprised at all. I thought it was only a matter of time before others took notice of his enormous talent. Over the years, David has become much more than a co-worker. He has become a great friend. He is someone I have been able to talk to not just about life in the news business, but about life in general. And while I am very sad to see David go, I am thrilled that he is moving on up, because David, for you, I really do think the sky is the limit. And while this is the end of our time as co-workers, I know it's not the end of our friendship. And I really do honestly wish you nothing but the best in your new role. Be away for a little while. Be back the day after Canada Day, July 2nd. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.